Welcome to Mind Love, episode 340. Today's episode is all about going from want to desire, wealth consciousness, and aligning with abundance.
I'm just in touch more than ever than how much money is an actual problem solver. And so when we think about abundance, it's like, what does an abundant life look like for you? Obviously, you want to meet your goals. You want to find goals that you can get behind. The more goals you set, the more goals you get. And I feel like we hear that. Like, if you want something done, give it to the busy person. And he talks about how wealth is abundance expressed, like plenty of everything. And I've never felt so motivated in my business to be like, I'm going to fucking crush this and build so much wealth and make so much impact. And I'm going to give myself abundance and I'm going to give causes abundance. And so I just think there's like a higher way for all of us to be living as it relates to money.
I loved how he also talked about like the need to be incremental for most people because people like read The Secret and be like, okay, I'm going to manifest $1 million. And does that number even mean anything to you? Do you actually believe it's possible?
Turn up your frequency with Mind Love. Bite-sized brain hacks for seekers, dreamers, and doers. It's time to give your mind a little love with your host, Melissa Monti.
If this is your first time giving your mind a little love, don't forget to subscribe to the show. Mind love is a habit, and the more you give your mind that love and intention, the better you'll feel about yourself and your life. Plus, it's really a win-win because more subscribers means Mind Love attracts even more amazing guests to bring you their wisdom. So don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to earn some positive karma today, please leave a 5-star review. You have no idea how much these mean to me. Seriously fuels me for the whole week. Have you ever wondered why some people just seem to manifest abundance with ease, while others get caught in the same old mess of financial struggles or personal dramas? How is it that the same opportunities, the same world can yield so many different outcomes? It's like we're all standing in this orchard full of apple trees, but some of us leave with baskets filled with fruit, while others trudge out with just one lonely apple. What's the deal? Remember, this is a space we've created together, a no judgment zone where it's okay to admit that, yes, I've screwed up, I've hit bottom, or maybe I'm still digging. I've been there, lying awake at 3 a.m., buying into that inner voice telling me, you should have more by now. Why aren't you further along? And that pity party sucks. It's somehow both loud and lonely, and you leave with a not-so-goodie bag of fear, doubt, and good old self-sabotage. But here's the thing. What if the missing piece isn't some secret sauce or stroke of luck, but the way we wired ourselves to see the world around us? It reminds me of being a kid on a hot summer day, holding on to an ice cream that's melting faster than I can lick it. I had my heart set on this treat. I even chased the ice cream man, and now I'm starting to panic. I somehow managed to get the thing I wanted, but I just couldn't hold on to it before it slipped away. How many people have this same experience with money? It's why people who win the lottery or inherit money often end up right back where they started. Because wealth is a consciousness and money is an energy. So today we're dissecting the impact of our subconscious money patterns and how they carry the weight of our past into our present, for better or for worse. And what happens to us and to our dreams when we actually move from a mindset of scarcity to one of abundance. We're also throwing in a curveball about multiple worlds, quantum leaps, and the implications they could have on you manifesting your deepest desires. But for now, let's start at the beginning with a single apple and the belief that there's a way to leave that orchard with so much more. You may recognize our guest, one of my dear friends, Ashley Stahl. She's the author of U-Turn and the host of the podcast of the same name. She is seriously a powerhouse of inspiration, and she writes TED Talks that will get you on that stage and help you go viral. We've decided to introduce a new flavor to both of our shows. Every now and then, we're going to do our own little version of a book club. So today, we're going through one of my newest favorite books, Happy Pocket Full of Money. 3 key things we will learn are how to master your mental muscles to unlock a world of focused achievement, the implications of quantum physics on wealth, and a 5-minute practice with the power to reduce stress and enhance focus. before we go deep today, I want to give you a little gift, and I want to give it to you every single day. It's called the Morning Mind Love. I know how life can be. You're all fired up after an inspiring episode, and then a new day or a new challenge comes at you, and it's just hard to keep up that energy. Well, the Morning Mind Love is kind of like an oracle from your higher self to help you start each day with a positive focus. Plus, when you sign up, you get 2 free gifts, a 30-minute binaural meditation and 30 days of journaling prompts to help you remember who you truly are. And it's all completely free. So join over 9,000 people and go to mindlove.com to sign up, or text the word morning to 33777. And now let's welcome Ashley Stahl back to the show.
We're book clubbing it up. It's not like consistent in a way where there's always going to be a date and a time, but it's consistent in the way that we are both committed to exploring books, exploring knowledge, and sharing with you what we take away. So Melissa and I over here, we just read A Happy Pocket Full of Money by David Cameron Garandi. I hope I said his name right. The subtitle is Infinite Wealth and Abundance in the Here and Now. And it was such an epic book. And we want to talk takeaways with you. Any thoughts? I know I just brought a lot of big dick energy into this opener.
No, I love it. And I have been wanting a book club partner for a long time. Shane and I share books a lot, but we don't even always have time to sit there and just flesh it out. And it just seems like a waste of conversation if we're not recording it and sharing it with other people, because this was one of those books that had, even just the first hour, I just want to listen to it over and over again or read it over and over again, because for me, there are multiple things that I need to believe in order for me to put my full effort towards something and not self-doubt. And those are, I need to believe that it's in generally possible. Mm-hmm. I need to believe that it's possible for me. And I need to believe that the path that I'm on is helping me to get there. And so if I don't have those 3 things, then I'm kind of well, is this worth my effort? And this beginning where they really break down just the quantum physics of the energy of money, of the way the universe works, is this necessary step for me to really understand the full power of the mind, and that everything that I'm working towards is going to be fruitful.
Yeah, I love that so much. And another thing that gets me thinking a lot about is where you are when you're listening to a book like this or reading a book like this. So it's interesting because I know that I've been on the show Mind Love and you've been on U-Turn before. So everybody who's listened, I don't want to assume they have, but I lost a ton of money and my mindset couldn't keep all of it. And at the time that I lost all my money, I had to give up my apartment. I had to give up my car. My sister died. And I called off a wedding to a guy I was with for 5 years. This was before I met you, Melissa, which is crazy because I met you right after all that. We've been friends for a lot of years now, actually, which is crazy. But yeah, so I went through a slow simmer energy in my business. And what that looked like was, as a career coach, I was selling career coaching packages and I really enjoyed doing it. I was really good at it, but I was also coming from a place of I didn't want to play big in my business. I wanted to let the leads come to me and for me to serve the ones that were aligned and let it be simple. So for 3 years, I worked very part-time and let my body recover. And obviously not everybody has the luxury of doing that. So I am aware of how grateful I should be for that. But then I had a quantum leap. I decided for the first time when my energy started coming back, it literally took 4 years for it to come back, that I wanted to help people write and book TEDx talks on stage. And then in the year that followed, I wrote 40 TED Talks. I partnered with a booker who booked 39 of those people on stage. And it was a $25K price point each, and it still is. And I had not played so big since when I lost all my money. And over the years, I think I got a story that who I am is someone who is not meant for the big wins with my finances, or that my skill set is limited and I don't have anything in me that can charge a high-end fee and easily get paid it. And when this TED idea came to me, I feel like contemplation is such a real thing. We need to contemplate for a while. Therapists talk about pre-contemplation before you even realize you're contemplating. But contemplation for me with this TED idea was 3 to 4 months. Then I put it out there. And then 3 months later, I booked 20 people. And it was effortless. It was the easiest sell I've ever had. And I'm so good at it and I'm enjoying it. And I pulled some speechwriters from when I worked for Obama and brought them over to my team. And it was just like this awakening of like, oh, wait, I haven't peaked and there's so much more available for me. And I had this moment when I was packing up my New York apartment before I moved back home to LA. I was sitting with my girls over breakfast and I was telling them, oh my gosh, so many people are signing up for this and I'm enjoying it so much and they're so happy and they're getting booked on stage and it's helpful for their career, da 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 da. And they're like, well, yeah, this is who we see you as. And when they said that, it hit me so deeply. I was like, but I didn't see me like this because so many years went by where I stopped believing that ease and success would be possible in the same way for me. And granted, I was making a great living doing the private coaching I was doing, but not like this. And this has been an income, revenue, fulfillment, spiritual explosion for me. And that's what I want for so many people. So reading this book like really helped me anchor back into how much like when we don't have an idea, our responsibility is to get into the vibration of our best selves, our best energy, not from a place of pressure. Cause I feel like personal development can be so toxic of like, be your best self. And it's like, all that is a mask for not accepting yourself, you know? So yeah, this book came in for me. If you are listening to us talk, and well, it's me talking, I'm just like monopolizing you, Melissa, but like, if you are listening to this conversation and thinking, I am so stuck with money, or I don't have a vision for myself, or I'm burnt out, you don't need to know what you're going to do next, but you just need to get committed to believing that there is more next. And that is what this book did for me, like really solidified all that.
My background with money, I've really been digging into it. This year, the quantum leap you're talking about, I feel like I'm just on the precipice of that. Well,
Yeah.
it really depends the way I'm looking at it. And so I'll explain. First, my history with money, like my parents were fine. It's not like they were like, I don't even know if they were upper middle class, just middle class, like not struggling for money. My dad was struggling for money. So I always saw this like this comparison. And it made me fearful of being, when I'm a child, the only word I had for that was poor. You know, my dad was poor, is how I looked at it. And my view on entrepreneurship was that it just wasn't something that worked out. I remember my parents joining Amway, multi-level marketing, and going out prospecting at ice cream shops, like just hoping to this conversation. And so I started to even equate it with this version of shame because I didn't like watching that. Like it seemed like begging in a way, like trying to convert somebody getting ice cream with their kids to your multi-level marketing company just wasn't for me. Didn't see them have any success. I remember my dad coming over once, showing some business idea to my mom. And when he left, I was really excited because my dad had never really had money. And I knew that he had the potential in him because he used to be good in real estate and chose not to. I always took that personally. Like, why wouldn't you choose to give your daughter a better life? Like, why do I have to go to the other side of the tracks to visit you in like a bad neighborhood and things like that? And so I didn't really like going there because it felt like a downgrade from the house I was used to. And I remember him coming over with a business idea and my mom like being excited and my mom responding like, your dad is always trying random things. They don't work out. Like, don't get your hopes up. And so that was the energy I carried with entrepreneurship for a long time. But for those that know my story, because of this trouble I got myself in by living with my ex-boyfriend who was getting into a bunch of trouble, I was forced into it because I was like, okay, I'm not going to explain a criminal record on 2 lines of a job application. And so to this day, I'm so thankful for that because I know I would have just gotten a job and like probably gotten paid pretty well, but never really reached my full potential nor found my purpose. And so the struggle has been transforming my story around money while in this path that I know I'm not going to turn my back on. And so it's come up a lot where I'm just second guessing myself. And I don't know if it makes it better or worse that Ashley, the circle we hung with in LA, is just
So wealthy.
They're so successful, so wealthy. And so on one hand, it shows me what's possible. On the other hand, it's hard not to be in this state of constant comparison. And when things don't work, be like, oh, like, okay, maybe I'm not cut out for this. And so the last few years have been interesting because I start Mind Love and I grow it so quickly that I become known in the podcasting circles, speaking at podcasting conferences. But then in that first year or two, almost wanting to hide behind just my growth because I didn't really know how to monetize that in the best way. I did in little ways. I made enough to support the lifestyle I currently had, but not necessarily to expand beyond that.
Right.
And then the world shut down right when I was booking gigs, speaking at universities and things like that. And so that was just another block. And then I started having kids. And so I was like, oh, I'm in maintenance mode, just making excuses. And yes, it's a valid excuse. It was pretty difficult to give it my all. But in the last couple of years, I think motherhood has really shown me what I'm capable of because I don't have a break at all. And I'm doing things that I didn't think I was capable of. And so that really propelled me forward in a way where I've realized I need to focus on my own alignment. And also, I've been combining forces with my husband. And so, in the last couple of years, his business, both of our help has been skyrocketing. And so that's shown me, okay, yes, I have my hand in here and that we can do this. Like we're doing well with that. And now I've been shifting it back to my own business. And what I'm currently working on is my signature program, the highest level that I can serve. And so I'm really excited to be launching that in the new year. But the most mind-blowing part is I can feel the shift. And like right now, my lifestyle is I wake up at 5 a.m., I meditate and I do a visualization. I've been using the Silva method, which is really fascinating, by the way. Yoga, like I meditate whenever I'm like frustrated, which is just more meditation than I've ever done, probably over an hour a day just in meditation. But the guidance I've been getting from the universe, just the feeling, the visions that I'm getting have been so profound. So I just can't wait to see how this next year unravels.
That's such a good feeling. I feel like it's like we operate in these stages, right? It's like we're in the stage where we don't think it's possible, or we feel burnt out, or we feel stuck, and we don't have the ideas. And I feel like the worst thing you can do in that stage is like pressure yourself to have the ideas. And then we kind of get into the stage that you're in where like we're starting to get ideas and we kind of feel like we're almost ready to take action. And I feel like it's so toxic sometimes, like on Instagram, it's like, take action, start before you're ready. And there is something to that. But sometimes there's just like a dignity to our process. And in this book, like there was a few things that I really loved that he talked about. One was he talked about like, I thought this was going to be a book just about money, but it was really a book about visualization. Didn't you think?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So he talks a lot about like, and I love this quote. He said, life is images of the mind expressed.
Mm.
And I was like, yes, okay. Life is images of our mind expressed.
You know what's funny? We spend so much time feeding our minds, reading books, listening to podcasts, learning new things, but then we grab whatever's convenient to feed our bodies. And I get it. Life is busy, and sometimes a drive-through feels like the only option. But that's why I take Field of Greens. It's a greens powder made with whole organic fruits and vegetables. No extracts, no lab-made stuff, and just 1 scoop a day gives you simple, real nutrition. Field of Greens feeds your body with fruits and vegetables medically chosen to support your heart, vital organs, and immune system. And let me tell you something. Since I started taking it, I've noticed these little changes that show me how nutrient depleted I must have been before. Like the ridges in my nails, gone. My sleep, so much better. And my stomach just feels happy. You know that dreaded afternoon crash that has you reaching for more coffee or sugary snacks? Well, that's not happening for me anymore. When your body is actually nourished, it runs so much better. I've tried other greens powders before, but Field of Greens is genuinely different. The quality is next level and you can taste it. It's become my go-to, especially on those days when my eating isn't exactly Instagram worthy, because we all have those days, right? And here's the thing. They are so confident that you'll love it too, that they offer a 100% money-back guarantee. That's how much they believe in their product. So I got you 15% off your first order and free rush shipping. Visit fieldofgreens.com and use promo code MINDLOVE. That's promo code MINDLOVE at fieldofgreens.com. fieldofgreens.com. I don't know why it took me so long to invest in good bedding. I resisted it for years, but something flipped in me about 3 years ago,
And now I'm basically a pillow connoisseur. I've tried them all, and I get weirdly excited about good bedding. Because here's the thing, we spend a third of our lives in bed, and the quality of that time affects literally everything else, which is why I'm so excited to tell you about my latest obsession, Lagoon Sleep Pillows. What sets them apart is their matching system. You take a quick 2-minute quiz about your sleep style and your preferences, and then they match you with your perfect pillow. I was matched with their Otter pillow, and I am so impressed. Lately, I've just needed more support, and this seems to cradle me in all the right places. I'm also low-key obsessed with their travel pillow, which I use for way more than just travel. I actually hug it, use it as leg support, and of course, take it on trips with me. Well, the secret is in their adjustable fill. You can add or remove it to get that perfect alignment for your spine. A study even found that the right supportive pillow can improve sleep quality by 63%. And Lagoon lets you try their matched pillow for 100 nights risk-free. Free returns, no questions asked. Falling asleep has never been easier. I toss and turn less and just wake up feeling refreshed every morning. Go to lagoonsleep.com and take their awesome 2-minute sleep quiz to find your match. Use the code MIND for 15% off your first purchase.
Life is images of our mind expressed. And that got me thinking, like, what images do I want to put in my mind? And what images do I want to take a snapshot, almost like I'm holding a camera in my mind, snap, 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 and like hold those images near to me. One thing that I'm manifesting and working on and taking action on is my dad lost our house when I was a little kid. And then when I lost all my money, I let go of my place. So I'm working on buying my home this year. I've actually invested in real estate with my little brother, but none of them are the homes. And I'm grateful for that. But nothing feels like this is my home. And I've yearned for a home ever since I was a little girl because we had none. It wasn't that we were homeless. It was just that we felt this instability. And my dad was rebuilding his career. And after he lost everything, and I remember feeling like really shaky, like, are we going to have this roof over our head? Are we going to lose this home? And so I've been taking these like this quote of like, life is images of the mind expressed. And you were talking about at the beginning, like believing something's possible and believing it's possible for you. And I feel like the sweet spot of that is like 50% possible, like feeling like there's a really big part of me that thinks I could do it. There's a really big part of me that thinks maybe not. And I feel like that's like a good spot to be. And so for me, I'm picturing like, what is that home? What is the view? What does it smell like? And I'm closing my eyes and I meditate for like 10 minutes, but in the last 2 minutes, I let myself just visualize and get out of that meditative state and into just like visualize, visualize, visualize. And before I open my eyes, I do like a camera sound in my head, like snap, snap, snap. And I catch those visuals. And he talks about how life kind of uses your imagination to help you know what you want to create next. And I wonder how many people who are listening are actually visualizing on an ongoing basis.
Well, I learned it so long ago, and this is the awakening I had a few months ago. And Shane has thought I've been like he laughs at me because I'm so intense, and I don't always see that in myself. I see it in him, but then it's like I learn something new and I'll just completely change my life. Like, oh, guess I'm throwing away 23 pairs of shoes and going all barefoot style shoes from now on. Like I've been revamping my whole wardrobe to be all high frequency clothing. Everything I learned, I'm just like, total life change. I don't care how it mixes things up. But he, all of a sudden, like, I won't watch shows with him anymore. I'm like, I'm not wasting brain space or time on anything other than what's going to bring me to my highest level.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I really dove into A Course in Miracles this last year. And I can't remember the exact quotes, but they basically say that we are too lenient with our thoughts. Like we allow ourselves to ruminate too much. And one of the quotes from this book was, if you use your mind to constantly ramble on inside your head, thinking about the past and future, all you do is live in the past, worry about the future, and lose the joy of now. And anyway, that is not a good formula for creating a future. All problems exist in the mind. They cannot exist in the now. And so they say in your mind, the problems arise when you use your mind incorrectly. And so kind of using those things, it's like, why would I allow myself to entertain any thought that's not towards my highest purpose? And somebody once told me that we only ever have 80% clarity. The rest is a choice that we make. And so when you think about that, it's like, yeah, like, yes, I'm sure I can still hear this nagging voice over here, but I'm not going to give it any power or any more energy. I'm not going to sit there and dwell in that. All I can do is the moment that I realize there's doubt going on over here, I need to replace it, even if there's this part of my brain that doesn't quite believe it. And the more that I do that, the more I'm going to ingrain this thought habit to only being toward my highest good. And so I really loved the way you said, like, you'll notice this when you have a visualization in your head or you want to bring something about, you use snap. It reminds me of Mel Robbins' new book, The High Five Habit. Her whole idea around that is like you give yourself a high five in the morning in the mirror. And she's like, it sounds so cheesy, but that's not something you normally do. So it's a pattern interrupt. And it's just like how core memories arise from things that are outside of the norm. Everything else just kind of falls into the background of your life. So what can you do? Snap. Like, I like that. I'm probably going to use it. And then just building it toward using those images. You don't need to know how it's going to come about. You don't need to like get in your head, like talking yourself out of anything. Just keep thinking about that. And one more thing I want to add from that is talks about how so many people are trying to manifest money and they're just like, I need $1 million or whatever it is. I need $100,000, but there's no meaning behind that. And they've never had it. And so they can't even visualize life like that. What are you going to visualize? A stack of money? How many rich people just have this stack of money on their kitchen table? That's not really what life's going to be like. Instead, what are you really thinking about? The feelings that you have when you're not stressed about buying better food at the grocery store, when you are flying an upgraded flight ticket with your children so you don't have to worry about being stressed in coach with a toddler. Like, what are you visualizing? What would change about your life when you have that? And just feel into that. Feel it like you already have it. And that's what you play around with visualization. Just like make your own internal movie of what you are aspiring toward.
And I also feel like it's like focusing on the what of what it is, because I feel like we can get so overwhelmed when we want ourselves to be in other stages. It's like you can't make a flower blossom. It's not like we can step up to a flower and like pull the petals the fuck open. Like you
Yes.
could do that, but it's not going to be pretty. I feel like that's the process of being human. So it's like, how can you say, okay, I'm in contemplation right now, and that's where I am? Or I'm in pre-contemplation. I don't have any ideas yet because I'm still in burnout, and the business that I'm in is taking care of my sanity and my well-being. And then when you're in contemplation, it's like, how can you make that get richer? How can you read books that make your contemplation go to new heights? How conversations or surround yourself, like your responsibilities change based on your era and based on where you are in the process. And then once you get clear on the idea, then you can start tuning into how. But people are just like, I don't even see how, so it blocks them from even getting into what they want. And I don't know, it's been such a breakthrough for me to realize like who I am is the same person that was making $0 is the same person that made $1 million in a month. My financial capability is inside of me, and I think it's not about my best idea. I think it's about my relationship to being in the process of accepting where I am and not seeing it as permanent, because nothing is really permanent, but seeing it as crucial part of the process. He doesn't just talk about, like the mind and the images of the mind for the world that you create. And I love how he talks about suffering. He talks about like suffering is a result of an error in your thinking. And it's just to alert you that there's a higher thought available that will serve you better. I just thought that was so good. But he also talks a lot about time, So I think like as we're talking about process, people kind of watch time go by and they feel like, man, and it's interesting for me because for 4 years I was doing my career coaching practice in the burnout, and it was totally an integrity for me because it didn't burn me out. It gave me energy. I'm good at it. I was getting paid. I was supporting myself, but I didn't want to create anything new. I didn't have the energy. And it was almost like the tide just shifted. The chapter just changed. It was like the idea came in May and it got solidified by June. And then I started, and it's momentum begets more momentum, right? So I started to get excited about the idea. I was like, whoa, I can feel this. And I didn't even have an idea that got me energized like this. And it started to kind of feed itself. And then all these people came in. And 3 months later, I went from like 20K a month to 150K a month. And it was like a quantum leap. And I used to listen to people podcast and watch people's things. And I used to think it was really annoying that people would do marketing based on how much money they make. Like, hire me because I'm making this much money. Like, I do uniquely believe that just because I'm making a lot or a little doesn't mean that I can help people make a lot or a little. Sometimes it has to do with the concept, the person, their skill set. There's so many factors, but I think being in that process. And when he talks about time, he says, like, obviously we hear this all the time. The only time that exists is now, and there really is no such thing as time, that all events in the universe just are happening simultaneously, and time is local to the observer. It's local to you. It's directly related to your consciousness.
I love how he talks about multiple worlds theory. And it's funny
Yeah.
because when I was first learning about the law of attraction, I remember having a lot of doubt in my head. And I thought, and I did not have this knowledge, but I thought the only way this is possible is if we're tuning into multiple dimensions, because there's no way that I can manifest a win here and change somebody else's reality unless there's also the reality for them to also win by tuning into another dimension. And when you really think about, all possibilities are right here and everything's happening at once, like, I'm tuning into the version of you that matches to this version of me. There's this other version of Ashley that's maybe making $1 million a month, and another version of Ashley that's making $10 a month. You know what I mean? And it's like, but this is how we're an energetic match. And this is how everything is possible to us. And it's not just like, oh, well, am I the only one doing the law of attraction? So I'm the only one who's just altering the lives of everybody around me in order to make my dreams come true. How is that fair or possible? So I love that. And the other thing that I have been very conscious of since reading the book is even just the way I frame my desires. And so whenever I hear myself saying want, I've been altering it to desire. Some of the quotes that I wrote down were, it's hard to have what you want when you want something you've never had. That's why it's important to shift states. You must shift from wanting to getting. And then once you're in a state of getting, you will have. Wanting represents a perpetual state of not having. And so many of us get in this habit of thought where we're like, I want this, I want that. And then we wonder why it's not coming to us. Well, you're not feeling into the correct energy. You're feeling into that state of not having. That's what wanting means. It's thinking about something that you do not have. And so I know I shift the word because it helps me shift the state, but he also says it's not the word that must be avoided. It is the state. And so you can say the word all you want if you can remember to stay in this state of, we've heard it from so many things, like act like it's already here, like it's on its way to you. And so I've just been careful of my language because I know that the words that I use out loud are also reflecting my internal dialogue, and might as well reshape the habits very consciously and see what happens.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Add excitement to your holidays with Ohio Lottery Holiday Scratch-Offs, including $1 holiday cash and $5 holiday lucky times 10, or holiday bonus millions with a 200 times multiplier and a $2 million top prize. Plus, enjoy second chance drawings where you can win 10 times, 100 times, or 1,000 times the price of your ticket. Scratch-Offs make the perfect gift, and best of all, there's no wrapping required. Lottery players are subject to Ohio laws and commission regulations. Play responsibly.
Yeah, I love the quotes about wanting and this implicit belief that when you're in wanting, you're also in not having, versus like the frequency of desire. It's such a fine line because I don't want to be someone that's like tiptoeing around my words. Like, because, there's kind of like a weird thing to it where you're like, you see people that you're like, I get to wake up today. Like people do that. And it's like, okay, it's okay if you have to, like, and you feel that, and that's a responsibility. But I love what he talked about. And he also talks a lot, we were talking about desire, he talks about goals and like setting goals that are higher than your present reality, and like how hard work by itself is not necessarily the key to wealth, that it's like wealth consciousness. And I was goal setting in the right way is just kind of like your map towards being a part of this wealth consciousness. It's interesting because I realized that like when I listen to books like this, and I like to listen to it when I'm driving, all I really need is like 10 minutes a day and it gets me in the vibration. And if I don't listen for a few days, I'm out. I'm not in the vibration anymore. And I was just thinking, I'm like, we're so lucky that we live in a time where so much of this is available. And I feel so self judging right now to even talk about this because I know the world has so much going on. And I'm like, here I am in the corner working on my wealth consciousness when some people don't have roofs over their heads, some people, but more than ever, I've been motivated to make a lot of money because I want to give back to these causes. And it's interesting because in my 20s, people would talk about the more you make, the more you can serve. And I used to not have enough money to pay my bills. So I'd be like, I'm not thinking about serving anyone. I can barely put food on my own table. But as you get older, you do start to kind of have those moments where you're like, what the fuck is the point of all this? What's the point of making all this money and having all my needs met and not giving back to the world? And so it's interesting. I actually had this really moving moment a couple days ago. I got a cold call from St. Jude's Hospital. And it's funny because I was thinking about them the other day. I haven't done my QuickBooks yet to look at my accounting. And I couldn't remember if I was a monthly donor to them or just a one time donor. And I wanted to be a monthly donor. And I got this cold call. And imagine women who are cold calling for nonprofit money. It's probably a tough job. So she calls me and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I've been really wanting a call like this." And I just heard her be like, "What?" You know? And I was like, "I actually have been wondering if I'm a monthly donor or a one-time donor." She's like, "I see that you donated $500 once and we just wanted to thank you for that." And I'm like, "Oh, well, is there any way you can help me set up a monthly donation? But I'm a little bit scared to give you my credit card over the phone because of the world that we're living in, nothing to do with you." She's like, "Yeah, no problem. I'm already in the system. I don't even need your credit card number." And I'm like, "Oh, great." And so she's like, "How much do you want to do?" I'm like, "I don't know, $50 a month." And I'm like, "Actually," and by the end of the conversation, I'm like, "Let's do 100 a month." And I could hear her like feeling her job meaning something today. I could hear how many calls she had to do to get my call. I could feel it. And I was like, yeah, I'm high on my own supply. Like, this is what life is about. And people talk about it, but I almost think people need to read their audience when they're doing the like make a lot of money, give back talk. Because when you're doing it to an audience that's like early in their career, like I was, it's like it's not going to resonate. Like, I'm fucking broke. I cannot afford to think about all these causes when I literally can't put a roof over my head. And people are like, it's never too late to start investing and giving back. I'm like, how am I supposed to invest if I can't pay my rent? So I remember this one time early in my career, I got 3 speeding tickets in a row, which obviously sounds pretty bad. It was just like Lemony Snicket's unfortunate series of events. Like there's this one turn in Malibu where like the speed limit changes and whatever. Long story long, I got 3 speed tickets. I couldn't afford them. It was like $1,000 combined. And I haven't gotten a speeding ticket since because I have like a trauma response to police officers now and to speeding. But that was like 15 years ago, and I just remember not being able to pay the tickets and having a total, like, depression meltdown and going to therapy and my mom offering to pay for it. But just, like, thinking to myself, "Wow, I can't even imagine making so much money that I'm in overflow and that I'm giving back." And now more than ever, when I look at what's going on in the world, and by the way, what's going on in the world is not what's going on the news. That's what's going on the news. Like 50 million people right now are being trafficked and they have no rights over their bodies. That's more than the entire Black slave trade, which is wild. Like I studied the Black slave trade. So in college. So for me, thinking about 50 million, mostly women and children who don't have rights to their bodies, who don't have advocates, who don't have support. I met this woman once who she was in Atlanta and she told me that she's in an organization that at night she works with police undercover as a volunteer, and the police wait for the pimps to go away, like to change streets, and then they send the volunteers out, and the only skill you need is like a really good ability to have a conversation to sway the women being trafficked to come to the safe house and like restart their life. And I remember being like, all I have is my time, and like I wanted in my own greedy, but also generous way, the fulfillment of that. But now I'm so much more attuned to like I'm thinking about all these like innocent lives in Gaza or in all these war zones that how can I give an amount of money that actually makes an impact? Like, and it really, really, really motivates me. And I've started to tune in to how much entrepreneurs and even, just people in corporate, how much power we have to like really solve some serious world problems. Like I think about the pharmaceutical space and like I have a family member working in pharmaceuticals. She works in compliance. And I've heard the worst horror stories from her. Like she was telling me that like, and I'm going to butcher this because I'm not a scientist, but there's a range. So let's say it's like zero point zero 0.01 to 0.05 is the safe range. And anything above 0.05, bacteria can grow in this thing and people can't take this shot. She was talking about a widespread shot and how it was like 0.051, like it was out of the numbers that it was permitted. And she was bullied and cornered into signing off on it. And she didn't want to do it because it's literally illegal. And just like listening to her talk about the pharmaceutical space and like, how
You
there's
seen Dope Sick on Hulu?
no, but I really want to.
Oh, that's a good one. Just watch any of these, The Bleeding Edge, Dope Sick, any of these pharmaceutical undercover things. It's wild. It will give you insight, and it is not just that one that they are profiling. It's
Right.
so many of them, and people are so, I hesitate to use the word indoctrinated because people are triggered by it, but it's like we're told the same messages from the time we are born in the same facilities that they are pushing these things. And so like we are just told the same thing to where it's so hard to break out of this idea that it might not always be in our best interest, that there might be anyways, continue.
No, I'm so hearing you and like I'm so with what you're saying. And like it's interesting because I was thinking about companies like GoodRx, like whether they're doing a good job or not, I have no idea. But this idea that their intention is to create transparency around pharmaceuticals and pricing. And I was just thinking like there are so many ways that entrepreneurs are looking at problems and saying, how can we make a lot of money for our company, employ a lot of people, and solve a really big problem in the world? And I don't know, it's interesting. Like I'm just in touch more than ever than how much money is an actual problem solver. And that's just the fucking fact. And so when we think about abundance, it's like, what does an abundant life look like for you? Obviously, you want to meet your goals, you want to find goals that you can get behind. He talks a lot about failing to plan is planning to fail, but he kind of comes back to visualization. Like, how do you master the skill of visualizing and setting the goals together? And he talks a lot about like the more goals you set, the more goals you get. And I feel like we hear that. Like, if you want something done, give it to the busy person. And he talks about how wealth is abundance expressed, like plenty of everything. And I've never felt so motivated in my business to be like, I'm going to fucking crush this and build so much wealth and make so much impact and get so many people on the TEDx stage. And I'm going to make impact in their words and they're going to share a message to the whole world. And I'm going to take all this money and I'm going to give myself abundance and I'm going to give causes abundance. And so I just think there's like a higher way for all of us to be living as it relates to money, remembering that it's just about, I don't know, like constantly doing this work on your mind.
I loved how he also talked about like the need to be incremental for most people
Yeah.
because again, people like read The Secret and be like, "Okay, I'm going to manifest $1 million." And it's like, what does that mean to you? Do you know what it entails? There's just my relationship with the law of attraction was learning about it, total excitement, getting totally on board, and then feeling like, okay, I'm going to snap back to reality. That was probably bullshit for a while, you know? And then learning one thing at a time to where I'm like, oh, I see how that broad description of it explained this, but I needed these 25 more details to really understand what you're talking about. And so again, it's like for most people, you got to know what it feels like if you're going to be in that state of having to actually attract it to you, number one. And then I remember also I went to a workshop with Paul Selig, which is my favorite channeler. He also like goes into your personality and he can like read. He's a psychic or a medium. And I like asked him like, what is my next step? I just want to live into my purpose. And he's like, let me go to you for this. And he like goes and he kind of weighs back and forth and he's like, you're funny. You're kind of like a little of this, a little of that. you're always weighing back and forth what you should and shouldn't do. It's like, you should just be. And I was like, what does that mean? You know, and like
Yeah.
I stewed on it for years. And David Cameron actually says the fastest way to create is simply to be right now, whatever you wish to create. Then do not negate it by thought. So that goes back to like, stop entertaining these thoughts that are working against you. Yeah,
Mhm.
you can have them, but like, don't spend time on them. The moment you realize it, switch it to something else. He says, do not think about it, just be. All your thoughts, words, and actions after that should be of the new state you choose to be. So that takes me back to the advice I got that, we are only ever have 80% clarity. Everything else is that commitment to it. So yeah,
Right.
you're going to have all of these thoughts that are trying to talk you out of it. But if you choose to commit to this new state, stop entertaining the other thoughts. Just keep steering it back. It's just like with meditation. Meditation is a practice of focus where so many people think they're just supposed to clear their minds. No, you're going to have a crap ton of thoughts through your meditation practice. Your job is to steer it back to the mantra, and you're training your mind to focus. And the more that you do it, you're able to focus on this one state, this one way of being, which is why meditation ends up being so helpful for creation of your life.
It's so good. And like, there's so many different ways to like bring meditation into your life, to practice meditation. I feel like sometimes people think it's just about like sitting in silence. I told you I'm certified in meditation. You saw that I did that, right, Melissa? Did
I
I?
think I did see that.
Yeah, it was one of my little moments where I'm like, I'm gonna try this on. And it's interesting because there's guided meditations. So, like, you can get a free app like Insight Timer and just commit to 5 minutes a day, type in a different theme in the app and just listen to 5 minutes a day and make that a habit. And, like, you were talking about incremental goals, like maybe it's just a little listen in every single day for a little while. But I do think that if you start your day at a threshold of like a 7 and you don't realize at a 7 out of 10, that's where you're at, meditation is going to bring you down to like a 3, and we know that we are in our most powerful state when we're calm. And we also are in our best goal setting state, because when you're frenetic, you're not going to set the best goals.
Oh my goodness. So I have the Aura Ring, which this is not an
Yeah.
ad for the Aura Ring, but it is because I'm one
Yeah.
of their biggest
Right.
fans.
Yeah.
And they launched a new feature around daily stress. And so it can take your biomarkers and tell you how stressed you are. The first day they launched this, I'm looking at my stress levels and I can see when it peaks, when I'm restored, all that. And I'm like 6.5 hours of stress. I mean, I guess I'm a mom, like that makes sense. And I work and I've got all this stuff going on, but that doesn't sound good. And it prompted me, maybe you should find a minute of calm. Well, I meditated for over 300 days straight when I was pregnant with Maven. And then since I've had a second kid, it's just harder to do regularly. So I'd let it slip for a while and kind of made excuses. Oh, my walks are meditative, whatever. Well, I did just do 5 minutes that evening, but then it reminded me and I was like, I'm going to get up at like 5 a.m. and meditate. And I started doing that. And on day 10, I'd like forgotten about the stress feature of my Aura Ring. I went back and noticed every single day from the day that I started meditating had only ever gotten to an hour and 30 minutes of stress. Meditation for 20 minutes a day decreased my stress levels by 80%.
That's
So
insane.
so now I'm like, well, when I see data like that, I'm just never going to miss a day of meditation ever again in my life. That's how I work.
Yeah.
Like once I have that data, once I know it's possible for me and that the path I'm on is doing it.
Yeah.
That's how I make complete life changes.
I love that so much. And it's so true. And it's like, we think of these things like, I feel like the medical, like insurance space, like they don't really understand acupuncture, but they're covering it because they know it does something. It's
My
almost-
insurance is horrible and I get free acupuncture from the one acupuncture
What?
guy up here. It's
That is
amazing.
so cool.
I
I
know.
need that. Okay, wait, maybe that makes me want to look at my insurance. You know what? This is like also public service announcement. We should all look at our insurance benefits. Can we get some therapy sponsored by them? Can we get some acupuncture sponsored by them? Maybe they'll pay for an Oura Ring or a gym membership. Like, let's get curious. But yeah, there's so much in this book. They talk a lot about being, like the step one of wealth creation is being, and being is in a state. And I think that really comes back to this meditation thing. And like being wealthy is just like an internal state. It's a state of being. And it's really the first step in being able to create the wealth you want.
Now that I'm starting to understand it more, whenever I feel myself feeling stressed or anything other than amazing, I have trained myself for a thought that it's like, are you thinking or being? And you can't really be doing both at the same time. And so it's just a reminder to come back to the present moment. And there was this line in the book that reminds me of the first quote that you shared, which I don't remember what your quote was, but I remember it reminded me of the one that he said, basically, your life right now is in perfect alignment with your thoughts, like with your ways of thinking. So if you have a problem with your life, any aspect of it, that should be your sign that there's something you're having an error of thinking in some way. I also realize that it's hard to have these conversations. I'm always kind of balancing of like, it seems like when you have a public platform, there's so much where it's like, oh, you got to make sure that you're not triggering these people or whatever. But it's like, there's always going to be people in a state of survival. And
Yeah.
I will say that in my state of survival, well, I've been there many times. Yes, I was triggered and I would resist so many, I don't know if I could call them high level conversations, like higher consciousness ways of thinking, because I couldn't get there. And they also planted a seed, and it's what grew until I could actually get there. And
Right.
so I know it's still like touchy grounds when they're like, I can't figure out how to put food on my table. And you're telling me to, oh, stop thinking and just be. Like it sounds like such a silly
Like, it sounds
platitude
like
in the
a crock of
moment.
shit. Yeah.
Yeah. But then it's like, just let it sit there. You don't need to know what to do with it, and welcome all of the resistance. Like, welcome that. Let it stew around in your head. Then
Mhm.
ask yourself, is this working for me? And I know like it's not this overnight thing all the time, but toggling between these higher states of consciousness and my survival mode is really what helped me move beyond the survival mode. And again, it wasn't right away. And I went through all these ups and downs of feeling like I was calling BS to all of the law of attraction type things. So to this day, I still like, I'm almost triggered by the phrase law of attraction because of my relationship I had at in the beginning. So excited. And then really, like clearly isn't working in my studio apartment, like
Well, that's this absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. That's the thing that
yes.
gets us stuck is we stop taking action on what we want. Obviously, you need to be smart and say like, okay, maybe my business idea is in alignment with the market, but also getting more curious of instead of this doesn't work, how can it work? Like asking yourself better questions, you know?
And it's kind of like when I started yoga, you get into a pose and you're like, how is that woman 3 mats down holding herself in this pose when I am like, can't even stabilize? And then I do it longer and longer. And now it's like, I can move from one-footed pose to like a one-handed pose, like things that people don't think are possible with their bodies. And now it just comes second nature to me. I've been doing this so long. And the reason that illustrates a point for me is because that takes years and years of finding all of these muscles that you didn't know you had. And I
Right.
feel like restructuring your thinking is years and years of identifying all of these limiting beliefs that you didn't know were blocking you.
Right.
And David Cameron says, to the extent that your thoughts are not conscious, deliberate, and focused on any topic, you will be affected by the outcome of the thoughts of other people. And that just reminds me where it's like, when you first start any of this work, a lot of your thoughts aren't conscious, deliberate, and focused on one topic. You're used to being swayed by the next shiny object and by what your best friend thinks is awesome and whatever. And so it's about training it, and it builds over time. You're not just going to all of a sudden be laser focused in your thoughts, behaviors, and being. That you need to build each individual muscle until you realize that everything is working together so cohesively that you can stand on one foot in your mind.
Right. Oh, this is so good. I'm so glad we are doing this book club. And I feel like anyone that is resonating, like message Melissa and I, like let us know what books you want us to read and talk about. I think we need to do more like manifestation, visualization, because I feel like all these authors have different thoughts on it. But
I
I
want to
just,
go back to our book list and
I
and
know.
refine again.
Right? I feel like there's no one I could do this more than with you because, like, we just have such a like, it's just so cool that we get to talk about this. And hopefully, I would love to hear from anybody listening just to get some tips on like how we can best keep doing this. And It's really cool too, because it's forcing me to read, and I need that because I'm writing so many TEDx talks and getting so many people booked right now that like I'm reading their books, but I'm not reading for me. And so doing this with you is like making me read for me, and that's just been epic. So we love you guys, or all of you. I feel like it's 2023. I don't even know if I can say you guys, everyone, all of you. We love all you legends. Hello, legends. And thanks for listening to Mind Love Podcast and U-Turn Podcast Book Club collaboration.
All the links for this episode will be at mindlove.com/340. Your challenge for this week is to just be more conscious about your thoughts around money. What feelings drum up when you think about money? When money is the topic of conversation, do you feel more excited or do you feel more stressed? For years and years, whenever I thought about money, I would immediately have this looming heavy energy. Like I was judging myself for what I spent that week and for not knowing about my finances and for not feeling like I earned enough and for wondering if this path was really going to get me to where I wanted to go and to wonder if I was ever going to own a home and all of these things. And just one simple thought would bring on this energy, whether I was conscious enough of what those thoughts were or not. And the key to unwrapping and unraveling some of this energy, some of that weight that you're carrying, is to first shed light on them. Go through them one by one. But the first step is that awareness. Just notice. And then ask yourself, could this be creating my current situation? I know money is a really heavy topic, and every time something like this comes up, it's like half the people are like, yes, and the other half the people are like, easy for you to say, it's not so easy, blah, blah, blah. But I want to challenge you. I'm not here to try to convince you or change your beliefs. I'm sharing what worked for me and many other people. And while these books in the beginning, especially when you're really far from where you want to be, seem like a fairy tale, just try it. Try the practices, because I promise you, it's been almost like magic for me of what can really be accomplished if I just dedicate that time to rewiring my mind around it and to do it long enough that my beliefs start to crack open and transform. So let me know how it goes. Reach out to me on Instagram at mindlovemelissa. You can also find all of my amazing sponsors at mindlove.com/sponsors. And if you are interested in the next cohort of Soul Strength Activation, that is the program where we start to rewire so many of our subconscious beliefs and set us up for the life that we truly crave. So reach out to me on Instagram and ask me about it. I'm offering a really exciting incentive for those of you who get in early for the next session. You not only get a 25% discount, but you get to join our current deep coaching calls and see where we're at. So you get a bunch of free coaching plus a huge discount. Reach out to me on Instagram at mindlovemelissa. And that's all for today. So thanks for giving your mind a little love today, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks for tuning into Your Higher Frequency with Mind Love. Head to mindlove.com for a free gift to keep your vibes up until next week.